Team Clueless Battle Report. I'm afraid I'm here on my own today. I'm giving the solo Horde play rules that I came up with another try today. I'm trying something a bit different. We've gone for a smaller scale game. So this time we're playing 750 points of Blood Angels versus about 900 points of Deathguard. There's a slight point disparity just because I know what I wanted the Deathguard force to look like. And we're going for a very different style mission. The Blood Angels have a win condition in this, which is to make sure that at the end of one of their turns, neither Typhus nor the Chaos Space Marine or Deathguard Demon Prince are on the table for that turn. If they get that at the end of any turn, they win the game. They lose the game when they're dead. So I'm going to go through the forces in a minute, but I'll just explain a few of the rules in case you didn't see the last video. So basically I've designed this to be able to be played on your own. It's obviously not going to be as good as a proper game of 40k, but it's a way to get some models on the table and to enjoy yourself in these times where we can't socialise with all our friends. I don't know what you at home are doing. I'm managing to roleplay quite a lot on the internet using kind of like video chat and such. We can play various board games over video chat. Some friends and I last night set up a game of Eldritch Horror and I videoed the board from above and we managed to play quite happily like that. But playing a miniatures game is a lot trickier. But that being said, I am actually this evening going to try a remote video game of 40k where I'm going to use this table that I've set up already and I'm going to set a camera up on the tripod pointing down at the table, and then my mate Mark and I, we're going to have laptops facing each other so we can see each other, because doing anything remotely I think it's really important to see the face of the person you're doing it with, because that's how you interact. And then the separate feed is going to come from the overhead camera, and he's basically going to tell me where to move the models he's going to be using. He's going to be using one of my spare armies. I've got plenty. And then I'm going to be measuring everything out for him. He's going to be rolling his own dice. And we're going to see how we go. We're only playing a small 1,000-point game, so it'll probably take a couple of hours still, because it's going to take extra time with me doing all of the movement and measuring and such. But we're going to give it a go because we love 40k. But back to this particular game. So the rules we have here, I've got a Blood Angel army, I use it just as normal. The Deathguard army is set up, I've randomly set it up, I designed 4 sectors of the table, and then the main units, non-zombies, or non-poxwalkers as they're now called, I set them up randomly, so I rolled a d4 to see which section of the table they were going to start in, and then at the front line, 12 inches in on each of those sections, I'll set up a unit of 10 zombies. The zombies are important because they're going to recurse during this whole game. Okay, so then every enemy unit that is in play in the game gets given a role. There are 4 different roles. There's a straight melee role, and basically they have a little flowchart they follow, which involves running at the closest enemy and trying to kill them in close combat. Then there's a tactical role they can be given, which involves advancing, not the actual rule of advancing, but moving towards the enemy each turn, shooting the closest enemy each turn with the appropriate weapons. If you've got a multi-damage weapon, you'll shoot a vehicle. If you've got a normal damage weapon, you'll shoot infantry, or you'll just shoot whatever's in range and visible to you that you can shoot. And then that type of unit will attempt to charge when it's in 12 inches. Then there's a shooting unit, which will attempt to always make sure it ends its turn in range of a target and line of sight of a target. And if it can, it will try and end each turn in cover. And that's its movement rules. It will never charge into close combat. It will always back away from close combat. Then there's command units, which are support units, and they're kind of like primary action. All of these unit types guide how the unit moves. The command support units will attempt to move close to a unit that their aura abilities will be able to affect. There are then a few sub-unit types, because this is me, I like making complex rules. Sub-unit types, things like a psycho, which governs how they use their powers, which generally means they're going to cast buff powers on the closest thing that they can buff and attack the closest enemy they can attack with their powers. There's transport rules, we're not using those today, and I can't remember if there's any other rules, I'm not sure. There are flyer rules to govern flyers, because I like to be a completionist, but we don't have any flyers, so they're not important either. So on the Deathguard, in this case turn, the NPC, the Horde, however you want to call it, all its units will move according to their little flowchart of how they move, what they move towards, what they try and attack. And then on my turn, I will move the actual Blood Angels in a tactical way that I'm thinking about. So it's basically me playing against the mechanism that I've designed to run the NPC army. So I'm going to go through forces in a minute and see what we've got. But you'll see from the Deathguard there are 4 units of zombies, and they will automatically recurse every turn, and they will come back as close to Typhus as possible, but not within 9 inches of a Blood Angel unit. And then they will just act normally. So it's to represent he's stalking forwards, raising up as many zombies as he possibly can to try and kill the Blood Angels. The rest of the army is just going to act as normal. As soon as Typhus is dead and the Demon Prince are dead, the Blood Angels are going to win. I have no clue how balanced that's going to be. We're going to find out, I suppose. Keep watching. Okay, so here we are with a view from behind the Blood Angels. I'm going to go through the units the Blood Angels have in their 750 points. So we have a unit of 6 Sanguinary Guards, swords, 2 axes and a power fist, and the leader of the army is Astorath. His command, warlord trait, gives him a deny, I believe, so that's useful versus the 2 Psykers in the Chaos Army. We have some Intercessors. Now, these aren't the actual Intercessor models, these are old Mark V or Mark IV Space Marines that I've converted up to use as Intercessors. They use all the Intercessor rules. They've got a mounted up kind of like larger, thicker base to make them a more Intercessor-sized model. But the important thing is they don't look silly standing next to the normal size models because they're the same size, more or less. And they look quite like Primaris because Primaris Marines are based off the Mark IV armour, as you can see with the helmet choices, the reasonably plain armour plates, things like that. So I think they're a pretty good stand-in, and I don't actually want any Primaris models in my army because it makes the rest look a bit silly. So we have a unit of 6 Intercessors there. They've got the Assault Bolt Rifles and a Power Fist. We have a Librarian who's my second HQ. He's got a Force Staff. I've given him the Wings of Sanguinius power that lets him fly, and I've given him the Unleash Rage power, which gives +1 attack to a unit. We have a second troop choice up here, a unit of scouts, 4 snipers and a missile launcher, very useful for plinking wounds off evil characters in the enemy army. I brought let's go to the front of him, they look a lot nicer from the front. I brought a Contemptor Dreadnought there, it's got the Carey's Assault Cannon and the Power Fist. We have a third troop unit, which is the Scouts down there. They've got close combat weapons and bolt pistols. And that is all the Blood Angels have. So they are in a battle of attrition. They've got to survive, kill the Deathguard, kill the 2 characters, and thus they will win. Okay, over to the Deathguard. So I mentioned the 4 units of zombies. You can see them spread out at the front. They're all melee type units, so they will just run at the closest enemy and try and kill them. We have the Demon Prince here. He's got the relic from the Demon Army. He's got the Suppurating Plate, which gives him a 2-up save and the ability to bounce mortal wounds. He is easily the toughest thing in the army. He is going to be a nightmare to shift. He's also got the Psychic power, which gives him -1 to be hit. And that is a thing he's generally going to cast each turn. Down here, we have a unit of Plague Marines. I apologise for the unpainted nature of these. They're kind of like, as you can see, they're base coated. They're going to get painted at some point. They're in the queue. They have a Power Fist, they have 2 Flails of Corruption, and they have 2 Blight Launchers in there. We have the man, the myth, the legend in the centre here, Typhus. So he is one of the 2 units you need to kill, and he is where all these zombies are going to spawn as close to as possible without getting too close to Blood Angels. So if I can get Blood Angels close to him, the zombies will spawn quite far away. Down here behind this rank of zombies we have another unit of Plague Marines. These ones have a plasma gun and a plague sword on the sergeant, and 2 plasma guns in the squad. And that's them. And then there's the last unit of zombies. And lastly, we have over here on the board down here, we have a unit of 3 Death Shroud Terminators. They're converted, or not really actually converted, they're the Forge World Death Shroud ones, so they're actually from 30k because they fit much better size-wise into the rest of my Plague Marine army. As you can see, it uses all the older models. And they are going to deep strike in at the start of turn 2, and the way their deep strike is going to work is I'm going to randomly select one of the Blood Angels units, and then they deep strike in as close as possible to that unit, and then attempt to assault it. Because they are going to be the assault unit as well. They do have little flamers, but they've got such little range, it's unimportant. The 2 Plague Marine units are the tactical style unit, so they will move forward, shoot, and then attempt to assault. As is Typhus, he's going to be the support unit, which attempts to support things nearby, so he will always go towards squads and try and get behind them in relation to the most of the enemy. So that's how he protects himself, and the Demon Prince is going to run forward and try and eat stuff. Let's see how we get on. I shall come back to you after the first turn, the first complete kind of like battle round. In fact, the Nurgle guys will go first, followed by the Blood Angels. Okay, so I've decided actually to do a little video at the end of each player turn, as it were, because it's an easier way to explain what the Deathguard do. Okay, so what happened here? I'd positioned my scouts forward. Now, there was a reason for doing this. I wanted them to be at the edge of charge range for the Poxwalkers, but I wanted them to be in charge range for any Poxwalkers that were set up to stop the Poxwalkers from advancing. So I'd positioned them quite carefully there, so that the Poxwalkers moved there 4 inches forwards. They were about 11 inches away, so unlikely to be able to charge me, but it stopped them all advancing. So it slowed down the Horde along there. You can see these ones didn't advance, those ones there and over there did. So they're all a little bit further forwards. These Deathguard down here moved forwards because they were moving towards the closest model, which was the Scouts, as was the Demon Prince there. These guys over here did similar. Then we started opening fire with our psychic powers. So down here, the Demon Prince attempted to cast his -1 to be hit power, Miasm of Pestilence, but it got denied by the Librarian I have back there. Typhus managed to get a smite off, killing a scout, and has also given +1 strength and toughness to this closest unit of Poxwalkers. Now, just while I'm on the characters, I will remind you of a special rule that we have in play. This is to represent the fact that the Deathguard can't spend any of their command points. They have a few special things that happen once per game. I mentioned them in the previous video I did, but this is slightly altered. These will only happen once per game now. So the first failed charge of the game, they get to re-roll. The first one rolled on a random damage weapon for the Horde army, they get to re-roll. The first failed saving throw by a command unit, they get to re-roll. The first perils of the warp, they get to re-roll. And the first failed morale test, they get to re-roll. So they get 5 free re-rolls per game, basically, just to add in a little bit of the fact that they're not getting command points, and I am. So, continuing on from there, we went to the shooting phase. This squad down here with their blight launchers and bolt guns opened fire, killed all the scouts. So that wasn't the best start. I'd put them in a little bit of cover, but no, the blight launchers just tore a hole in them. So then these ones back here, they only have a ranged unit that really were going to fire. So they fired their plasma guns. They weren't overcharging because they only overcharge versus vehicles is how they are written. And these have 2 wounds, so the overcharge would have been useful, but they didn't do so. And they managed to clip off 1 Sanguinary Guard at long range, even though I had a bit of cover there. So it wasn't that favourite for the Blood Angels. Then this Demon Prince here was just about in range of a charge on the Dreadnought, but it was pretty long distance. It was a 12-inch charge. The Dreadnought opened fire, hit him with a couple of rounds from his assault cannon on Overwatch, but didn't do anything. And that was the end of Deathguard Turn 1. Let's see what the Blood Angels can do. Can I get to those characters? Okay, so it was end of Blood Angel Turn 1. What did we do? So down here, the Intercessors and the Librarian moved forward. The Librarian smited the Nurgle Prince, only did a single damage, and he managed to disgustingly resilient it. The Librarian then I decided to cast Unleash Rage on the Dreadnought, giving him an extra attack. The Dreadnought fired his assault cannon Stormbolter, failing to do any wound to the blooming Demon Prince again. Charged in though with my massive power fist. I had 6 attacks. Didn't roll particularly well at getting attacks through, but did 11 wounds to him when I got 3 through in the end. Then the Disgustingly Resilient went off and reduced that to 7 wounds, unfortunately leaving the Demon Prince on a single wound there. He then slapped back, ripping parts of the Dreadnought off, leaving the Dreadnought on 2 wounds at the end of combat. The Sniper Scouts up here, they'd also fired into that Demon Prince, really wanted to take him down this turn, but they did nothing. Over here, the Sanguinary Guard leapt forward to about here. Now, obviously, they're trying to get to Typhus. I've got to say earlier that I ruled out for the Blood Angels any deep striking shenanigans here, because it kind of makes a mockery of a bit of the mission. If I could just jump in behind with some reserve units, things like that. That's why I've got nothing in reserve, and also can't Wings of Sanguinius them. up into the air, or on wings of fire I think it's called, and then charge Typhus from behind. I've got to fight my way through the Horde, as that is kind of the theme of the mission. So we charged forward. Astraf cut down 4 of the Deathguard there, who had the plasma guns. They were the real threat to this unit, but they have got a bit bogged down in the zombies because we didn't get very many extra kills on them. I think I killed 2 of the zombies. They're fearless, so we are going to get bogged down unless we can do something about it, have a tactic. I'm hoping if I'm surviving enough to my next turn, they can jump out of combat. The Intercessors over there will be able to close enough up, lock down some of the zombie units, and then the Golden Boys will be able to assassinate Typhus. That is kind of the plan I'm going for, assuming the Demon Prince goes down. Okay, so that was more or less all that happened in the Blood Angel turn. Those guys there fired their assault bolters at Typhus' zombies, trying to thin the horde around him. But these are close to him, thus getting +1 toughness, and he also cast the spell that gives them +1 strength and toughness. So they're toughness 5 zombies, and I really didn't do much to them at all. I think I killed 2 models again. So let's see what they do on their return. Okay, end of Deathguard turn 2. So the first thing that happened was the Death Shroud Terminators came in. I rolled randomly to see which unit they would come down and try and attack. The Scouts were up here, so they dropped down in about here, 9 inches away. They then, in their charge phase, rolled a 12-inch charge, getting them close enough, even though the Scouts are a little high up in the air, getting them close enough that they would have been able to get into close combat, pulled them all down, slaughtered them in combat, and then consolidated towards the Librarian and this guy. Now you notice that this guy's squad has reduced, the Intercessors are down. So all of this stuff here moved towards those as the closest unit. The Deathguard all opened fire, managing to kill 1 of the Intercessors and dealing a wound to another one. The Demon Prince then got into close combat. I'd really hoped that when he charged I'd be able to overwatch and kill him, but he made his save on the 1 wound I got through with the overwatch. He then went a bit berserk and slaughtered all 5 remaining members of the Intercessor squad. I then thumped him with the Power Fist, failed to kill him with my Power Fist. In the end, I had to fight again with the Power Fist to kill him, spending 3 of my 8 command points, putting him down, which I felt was really needed at that point because I had to get rid of him. But I'm severely depleted. I was really relying on my Intercessors there to be able to deal with some of the zombies. So, over here, the good old golden men, you'll notice none of them have even taken a scratch. What did we have? We had 52 attacks from all these zombies nearby. They got through about 8 or 9 wounds, but I made all of my 2-up saves there. So then I slaughtered some back. I've been quite semi-tactical on what you're trying to kill. I've only killed 1 of this back squad. I have left 4 remaining members of the middle squad and 6 of this squad, which is the one Typhus has buffed up. I've faced the models in different directions so I can tell which squad is which. So on the Blood Angel's turn, I intend to leap out of combat, try and whittle down some of the squads again using some fire, and then try and get into Typhus after that. I've got to say what my special powers on Astrath were. In the first round he attempted to use the reroll to hits. He failed it, but he did get the +2 to charge off, which is how I managed to get that charge so easily across there. His other power is powering up his own axe to deal more damage, so I suspect on my next turn he's going to attempt to do that. Okay, let's see what the Blood Angels can do in this dire situation they find themselves. Okay, so it's end of Blood Angels turn 2. What happened this turn? Well, the Blood Angels won. This seems unlikely, but let's go through what happened. So if you remember, we had a Librarian and the Power Fist Sergeant there from the Intercessors remaining. So we moved those both up. The Intercessor got within, well, I think he was about 7.5 inches away from Typhus, and the Librarian was a little further behind him. So they both opened fire with bolt, pistol and bolter, did nothing to Typhus. I had moved back with Astorath and the Sanguinary Guard. They jumped out of combat. Because I got the fly keyword, they can still shoot after they've jumped out of combat. So Astorath took a pot shot with his pistol, did nothing. The Sanguinary Guard, though, I used the stratagem that means their Angelus bolt guns get an extra -1 AP, ignores cover. Sorry, not an extra -1 AP. They ignore cover and re-roll wounds. We're in the second round, so I'm in assault. I'm in tactical doctrine, getting these words right at some point, meaning I've got the extra 1 AP, which I got from there. They got -1 AP normally, so Typhus is 2+ save. He didn't get his cover for being behind this bit of rock. 2+ save went to a 4-up. I got 6 wounds through on him. He made 3 of his 4-up saves, which is pretty average, but didn't make any disgusting resilience, dropping him to just 3 wounds. So at that point, I'm not allowed to charge because they don't have anything that allows them to do that. But the heroic Intercessor Sergeant here, he can. So he charged in, made his charge. He was outside Typhus's Overwatch range. The Librarian rolled an 8, he needed a 9, so I re-rolled the 2 because I rolled a 2 and a 6, but I came up a 2 again, so it was just the heroic Intercessor Sergeant on his own. He slammed his fist home, getting 3 hits through, and got all 3 wounds because they were on a 2+ to wound with his fist in the first round of combat as a Blood Angel. Typhus failed 2 of his saves, then failed passed 1 of his 4 disgusting resilient saves from the 4 damage I dealt him. 6 wounds gone. Typhus dead. Game over. There are lots of Deathguard stuff left on the table, and if they'd had another turn, the Intercessor would have been down. I think I'd have been down to the Sanguinary Guard, which are tough to take down, but weight of attacks will get them in the end. I mean, my plan may have worked if they didn't charge me with too much stuff. I'd put Astraf at the back, and then I was going to use him to launch forward into wherever Typhus was to kill him if I could next turn. So how did that go compared to my first game? Well, firstly, it was a lot quicker. I'd gone for a lot smaller points here. I'd given the Blood Angels a win condition, which I thought was doable but challenging. I think because of the way the Poxwalkers moved, leaving Typhus kind of on his own in the centre there, it meant I could fire away with my units because they were closest to him, so that was a big boon for me, and that kind of let me do it. I think if it had gone on, a lot of the units are a little out of position. That is what happens when they move towards the closest enemy and then kill them, but I think the rules worked reasonably well. I think next time I play I might try and go for a little more nuanced mission. This was very much cut the head off type of thing, which was eminently doable and really simplistic tactical wise, so I might try something a little different next time. But yeah, it actually worked a bit better that time. Definitely, if you're going to try this at home, go smaller points, certainly to start with. It makes the to and fro of you having to roll dice for yourself and then for your opponent, it lessens that much more, so it makes it much easier to play. I played in about an hour and a half, I think, maybe less, including setup, so that worked really well. Let me know how you get on. If you enjoy these kind of battle reports, say below. Obviously, I'm not quite the same as a proper battle report, but what can we do in these strange times? Take care of yourselves, everybody. Bye.